What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content daily. We also stream over on Twitch at This Is Aftersound, so come by and say hello. All right, so we are about, what time is it here? An hour and 15 minutes into the second sale, or the Phase 2 sale of Waka Spiritblade. And my, oh my, what a huge difference between now and a couple of weeks ago on the sale that happened within the Splinterlands store, the first part of the sale. So as you can see here, all these that are going for roughly 1,500 are brand new and available, and they are still for sale. So here's the thing. I'm looking at this, and the first thought is, okay, well, it seems as though the hype around Waka has died down, and when I say Waka, I'm talking about the card, right? So the Waka Spiritblade card has died down. People have had a chance to play with it, either rent it or get it delegated to them. And the truth of the matter is, maybe it's just not as powerful as it was before. That, or the price doesn't really match the power. Now, I've talked about this in previous videos and on live streams. One of the things that seems to be the general consensus all around is that Waka is actually quite powerful in bronze and silver. And so with it being very dominant in bronze and silver, once you get to the higher levels like gold and diamond plus, the mana in the matches tends to be much higher, meaning that you get bigger monsters, a lot more HP that you need to work through, and just a lot more options to counter Waka. So to me, Waka has always been valuable in the lower leagues and in lower mana matches where, lower mana matches and in lower leagues where the monsters don't have as many abilities to be able to counter him in certain ways. So the thing is, here we are sitting on a card that is $1,500 to be fully maxed out, when it is primarily, or it's at its strongest in the lower leagues. So, if you were sitting in the lower leagues in bronze or silver, would you want to buy a totally maxed out card just so that you can dominate in a league that you are hopefully trying to get out of at some point in the near future, right? Because there's a lot of extra CP that doesn't necessarily get wasted because you still own it. You're still benefiting from the airdrop. You're still benefiting from the amount that it gives you in terms of overall collection power. But as we've seen, and as again, a lot of this is anecdotal evidence just through the map chat and through the general chat and talking with folks on live streams, it seems as though Waka is not as powerful in the higher leagues. So, excuse me, I was following this. I followed both, actually, was doing live streams during both. It was crazy to see the appetite for Waka Spiritblade at that point a couple of weeks ago when it was, 47 seconds, I think somebody timed it. And I was watching it in real time, seeing how quickly that number was dropping. Whereas now, Waka has been out, the hype has somewhat died down. I mean, I think it's safe to say that it's died down. I'm not trying to throw shade at the card or shade at Waka himself. It's just one of those things where now we understand how much this changed the game meta. And in many ways, for the higher leagues, it didn't, or at least it isn't as powerful as everybody thought it would be. So to me, this kind of signals the market obviously dictating its appetite, and the market is obviously dictating the value of Waka Spiritblade, and nobody really wants to pay the going price, right? So this is something that I'm sure many folks had bought in early on with the Splinterlands sale, and if you were able to flip a profit higher up, good for you. I know many folks who did, and I'm at this point, I think it's hard to argue that was not a good move. In fact, it seems like it was a very good move right here. But we're not even 2 hours, not even an hour and a half into this sale, and I think one of the important things to remember. So just to give you the other side of it, one of the important things to remember is that this Atomic Hub sale was meant to be for fans of Waka Flocka, and the other aspect of this was having the AR filter on Snapchat. So, if Splinterlands and Splinterlands players got their fill a couple of weeks ago, if they didn't get their fill, I would have expected them to come through in waves buying this card here on Wax. But from what it seems, everybody who wanted one got one, or at least if they didn't get one, they are now not as they're now not as incentivized to go for one, set up the wallet and account on Atomic Hub, go through that whole process, which doesn't seem like much, although I've heard people having some issues with Atomic Hub. I've never used it, so I can't really comment. Was just having a conversation with some other folks on the live stream today about them literally giving up on creating an account because it was too difficult, or they didn't have the funds, or it was just another barrier for folks. So that is something just to keep in mind, that there may still be an appetite for Waka, but maybe, just maybe, it might be worth it to have somebody else buy them and bring them into the game, or figure out how to deal with the whole Atomic Hub situation. So the other side of this too is that, keep in mind, when non-Splinterlands players are looking at this, what are they getting from it? And I think that's important to view, right? Like, yes, NFTs are cool, and they have this kind of scarcity element to them, this kind of digital flex. And so when I compare this to other NFTs, such as your Cool Cats, your Bored Ape Yacht Clubs, your whatever it is, right? You can throw anything, whether it's like at the high end, mid end, or low end tier. What ends up happening is that most of these NFTs have some kind of differentiating characteristics, which Waka Spiritblade as a card doesn't. You can just grab one and it's going to say, number 384 out of 1,000, right? But it's going to be number 384, and you're going to look at it and think, okay, it looks exactly like number 70, exactly like number 58. There's nothing else that really differentiates it. So in the perspective, or from the perspective of people who buy NFTs, what is the value prospect here? You're not really getting something that's differentiated. You are getting access to the Snapchat filter, which for some people might, carry a lot of value. I don't know about $1,500 worth of value. I personally wouldn't, and I'm not. But then again, I'm also not really on Snapchat, and I don't buy NFTs for the collectability of it. So I'm not saying that it's a good or bad move. I'm just saying that for me personally, I don't, while I know many others do. The only thing, and like I mentioned, is that there is no differentiating factor between Waka number 384 and Waka 140 and Waka 318. So maybe if Splinterlands has had its fill, right, the Splinterlands community has had its fill, and the rest of the NFT market is looking at this and saying, well, there's nothing really special about it, where is the market for Waka Spiritblade at that point? I think ultimately it will have to come down to the cards, the Splinterlands players. Like, at some point, if Waka does not sell out, and I don't know what would happen if they'll just stay at this price forever, but at some point, he will get eaten up, right? Like the quantity that's listed on here, and you can see there's still quite a bit, and they keep fluctuating in price based on the price of wax. So at some point, I do believe that it will get eaten up, whether it's slow and steady. But it might just be one of those things where Waka might be on the shelves for a while as well, if the appetite isn't really there from the Splinterlands community, and the appetite isn't really there from the rest of the NFT community. So at this point, it'll be interesting to see what the team's response is. It'll be interesting to see what Waka's response is. Obviously, that was an awesome flex for everybody to say, oh my God, this sold out in less than a minute the last time. But here we are on, a third party site. So Atomic Hub, right? It's like this website isn't owned by, a third party site really isn't the best way to approach this. So let me take that back. But this website is another area for people to get the NFT rather than on the Splinterlands website or through Waka directly. So I don't know. It just tells me that at this point, I think Splinterlands, the community, has seen enough Waka at this point, or at least the price point for Waka is not at an appealing range for people to really take the jump. Now, if this thing sells out, and it still can sell out in the first 24 hours of the first week, that's probably still going to be good and taken as a win. And I'm not going to knock that. It definitely could be, right? There could be people that come through. If it takes some time, or let's say the market corrects and dips a little bit more, and you get wax literally going down 33%, well, then all of a sudden you can actually jump in and grab Waka for $1,000 at that point. So we'll just have to see where this goes. I will be checking in periodically to see what's happening with Waka Spiritblade. But with this being the first promo card, I will say it's a little disappointing, even though I don't own one. It's a little disappointing to see that this did not have the same kind of fervor and intensity as the first sale. And I know for many of the Waka Spiritblade owners, especially the ones that were on stream with me today, they were a little bummed just due to the fact that, okay, well, now this is going to clearly somewhat devalue the card, right? Because if you looked at the market on Splinterlands, and actually let's go back to the market here. Where is it? Market. Oh, whoops. Okay. So you had folks that were trying to sell it obviously above that floor price of $1,500. So now if you have one and you're trying to move it, such as like Skin33 here, who has three of them listed for sale, I should say, well, then you might be, you'd have to really compete with the ones that are on sale that are brand new. And what's interesting about digital goods, for example, is that there's no such thing as like, oh, I don't want a used one because it's a little too broken in. Like they all do the same thing essentially. So buying like used NFTs versus a new NFT is not a real thing. There's no real difference there. But what that means is that anybody who's trying to move their Waka, if they own one already, is going to have to compete with that floor price here on the NFT marketplace, right? So you will have to undercut that, meaning that you'll have to sell it for less than the $1,500 $1,500 if you want someone to come in and buy yours over what's available in the market. So right now we're not seeing that in the Splinterlands market. The lowest that we're seeing is $1,700. So I would look at this and be curious to see where the Waka Spiritblade price goes on the secondary market over the next couple of days. Once we get a better idea of how the wax sale goes. And actually, let's just take a look here. So 10 grand is now the floor. So yeah, that's just what it is. So like I said, we'll be following around on we'll be following this throughout the next couple of maybe days or weeks. If there's some massive movements, then I'll try to cover it. But I'm curious to hear, what are your thoughts now on Waka Spiritblade? Have you had a chance to play with him? Have you had a chance to rent him or have him delegated? Is this something that you would still want in the future? And maybe actually what would be a good and interesting thing to kind of crowdsource is, what is the price that you would be willing to pay for this card? Maxed out summoner, maxed out legendary summoner. What is the price that you would be willing to pay realistically, right? Like, who wouldn't want to get him for $2? But my point is, like, if there was a price target, and I don't think I can even think of one right now because I'm so busy and focused on maxing out my Chaos Legion deck. But I am now starting to think about, if Waka did come down to a certain level, would I believe that he's worth snagging? And I'm curious to see what the rest of the community has to say about that. So that's all I have. Have an amazing rest of your day. I will catch you all in the next video, and I will see you around the game. Take care.